Michael Dobbs's first novel, House of Cards, launched the career of the villainous Francis Urquhart, one of the most memorable fictional characters of recent years. Michael's other novels include Goodfellow MP, The Buddha of Brewer Street, and Whispers of Betrayal. Before becoming an author, he was at Mrs. Thatcher's side as she took her first step into Downing Street as Prime Minister, and was a key aide to John Major when he was voted out. His most recent book was the highly acclaimed Winston's War, shortlisted for the Channel 4 Political Book of the Year award.
I'm one of those silly people who've never had a proper job. I've done things in journalism. I was a political hack for many years. I was deputy chairman of something called the Conservative Party, and its chief of staff. It's all seemed a good training ground for what I now do. I write. I decided I wanted to be interviewed here because in the Cabinet War Rooms, as part of the Churchill Museum, because this for me is a place of wonder. I've written many novels about the old man, Winston Churchill. I kind of feel as if I know him, as if he's almost like a great uncle to me. I imagine him at times sitting right beside me as a warm-blooded, flesh and blood individual, not that cardboard cutout character, the statesman that we all think that we know. I see him as a troubled man, actually. Because I know him so well, instead of him just lecturing me, and he used to lecture quite a lot, I see him as an old relative asking me for a bit of advice because his life's a bit of a mess. Not the public life, although that often was a mess, but his private life. He was to me always a wounded warrior. And this is what Churchill carved out as his wartime headquarters, because of course in the middle of the Blitz, Downing Street, number 10 Downing Street was bombed. I mean, there's a very good chance they wouldn't have survived had they simply stayed there. So they dug out this extraordinary complex beneath the Treasury. And it was here, in this very room, right behind me, was Winston's seat that he ran the cabinet, the war cabinet from. I've got half an hour to encapsulate just a few moments of time. And the intensity with which you have to write, the sensitivity with which you have to write, the fact that every line, it's a bit like poetry, every line has to mean something. Perhaps that's why I've been cautious about getting into it in the past. And perhaps that's why I've enjoyed the process so much, because I've learned so much through it. These people, this clique, this group, which included Burgess, at the end of the day did huge amounts of damage. They gave the Soviets all sorts of information about people, which ended up lots of people getting put up against the wall and shot. I'm old enough to remember all those wonderful things that you used to get on, perhaps in black and white on the BBC. And I mentioned it to one or two people, and they all said the same thing. Why hasn't it been done before? Why have we had to wait 30 years for this? I feel very much the same. Just because it's not entirely in control. The gods have a little word to whisper in our ears while we're doing all this. And I think that's wonderful.